Hello everybody, this is Monty with Flowers by the Bunch. Today we need to make a long low centerpiece. It's going to be used for a memorial service. So I'm starting out with a design bowl. So this is a long low green design bowl. We usually order them in bulk from just our supplier. Very inexpensive. I want to say they retail for like $4 or $5, so they're fairly inexpensive. I have taken a little less than a full block of fresh floral foam. It has been soaked in water, so it is well hydrated. And the nice part about this little design bowl is it has a pretty good reservoir to hold water, so it works really well. I'm going to take some waterproof tape and I am going to tape this foam into place. And I am going to tape it in two separate places. Now when designing with fresh floral foam and it's going to be delivered, you're going to definitely want to tape it down. So use some tape and tape that down into the container. So now it can be flipped upside down. It is not going to go anywhere. Next, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna start with a little bit of leather leaf. I've got several different varieties of foliage. I'm gonna start with some leather. I'm taking my floral knife, cutting that stem at an angle. And I am just going to go all the way around. So you can see I'm holding that leather leaf and I'm just popping it in smaller pieces. And I'm just going all the way around in this container. You just want to make sure that you cover that foam with greenery. Oh, got my nose itching. If you don't like leather, you certainly don't have to use it, but I find it's a really good, inexpensive foliage to use as a base. Okay, so there's our leather leaf. Next we're going to come in, I'm going to set that leather to the side. Next we're going to come in with a little bit of lemon leaf or salal. I'm going to cut that band. Now, lemon leaf is just a really pretty foliage. I love using lots of different greenery because I like the texture. I like different textures in an arrangement. I just think they really do make an arrangement so pretty with the different textures. Okay, so there's some lemon leaf. Ooh, that one's kind of crooked. Okay, there's our lemon leaf. Next I'm going to set this to the side. Next I have some foliage that I cut out of our yard that I went out and foraged for. So we have, this is called Nandina. Nandina is a shrub that grows really well here in Mississippi, and I love its lacy texture. Such a pretty lacy texture. So I'm going to take and cut some small pieces. Now, if you don't want to use store-bought foliage, you certainly don't have to. I don't know about where you are, but if you will go out and forage for foliage, you are going to find you are going to save so much money and really have a much more interesting looking arrangement. So go out and cut foliage because it makes, number one, it's fun. It's a lot of fun to go cut your own foliage, and it really makes for a prettier arrangement, in my opinion. Okay, so I have more foliage, but I will add that at the end. We'll see what else we need at the very end. Okay, so here is our container. I have greened it out all the way around. Now I am going to add flowers into our empty spaces, so don't worry about that. I'm going to start out with some white hydrangeas. So this arrangement is a green and white mixed arrangement. I'm going to remove the foliage from this hydrangea. Hey, can I have some quick dip? So I have a pretty white hydrangea. I went ahead and removed the foliage so that when the water goes up the stem, thanks Callie, when the water goes up the stem, it's going to go directly to the head instead of the foliage. I'm going to take my floral knife, I'm going to cut that stem at an angle, and I am going to dip it in a hydrating solution called Quick Dip. Quick Dip just helps to keep the head of this hydrangea hydrated, and that is very important. I'm going to take that hydrangea and I am going to push him right down into that floral foam, right there. I'm going to take a second bloom. Go ahead and remove that foliage. Now there are times when I'll leave the foliage on. If the hydrangea is going to go directly in fresh water, I may leave the foliage on. But because this is going in floral foam, it does not have quite as much water for its water source. The foam does hold water and does hydrate the flowers, but it's not just plain water. And so I always like to go ahead and pull that greenery off to make sure that the water goes directly to the head of the flower. So I have 2 hydrangeas tucked in. Next we're going to come in with some line flowers. So the colors of this arrangement are green and white. So my green flowers, we're going to use some Bells of Ireland. So with the Bells of Ireland, it has these little leaves at the tip. I personally don't like the leaves, so I always pinch them off. Now when you pinch the leaves off, what that's going to do is help this bell to straighten out a little bit. And I'm not exactly sure why that happens, but I went ahead and removed a couple of the blooms so that I'm able to cut that stem a little shorter. Now I am going to stick it right down in the side here to elongate this arrangement. I'm just pressing it right into that foam there. I'm going to take a second bloom, pinch that greenery out, strip down some of those blooms, cut that stem at an angle, and put the second stem over here. Okay, so you can see I've got 2 stems there, one on each side. Now with Bells of Ireland, if you've never worked with them before, they have little bitty, it's almost like a thorn, but it's not going to get into your skin, but little briars on the blooms, and so they bite just a little bit. It's not like a rose, but it does have just a little bite. It's funny. So if you find that they're a little prickly, it's because they do have little briars on their blooms, which is interesting. All right, so there are our Bells of Ireland tucked in. Next we're going to come in with some white stock. So we have beautiful, very fragrant white stock. I'm going to take that stock. Okay, so with this stock, I don't do this often because quite honestly, I just don't remember. I'm also going to use our hydrating solution for the stock. And the reason is stock wants to look a little wilty, and so hydrating it is very important. I'm going to take my stem, cut it at an angle, and I'm going to dip it in that hydrating solution, and I'm going to count to about 7. And then I'm going to tuck it into that floral foam. With this hydrating solution, the Quick Dip, you can really use it for any flower. It is not going to hurt any flower at all. I'll just be honest, we just forget about using it for all the flowers. We usually just use it for the hydrangeas. That's the flower we find that is going to go down the easiest. So I have placed, if I can get this little guy in there without breaking his stem. Okay, so if you look at my arrangement, you're gonna see where my placement of my bales are. They almost come diagonally right here across the center of the arrangement. But you see how it kind of does a zigzagged arrangement. With my hydrangeas, I have two kind of in the center across from each other, and then with my stock I'm just kind of placing it here and there in this arrangement. So I want my stock just to kind of be all the way through. I think white and green are such a lovely combination in flowers. Just so pretty to me. All right, so there is our stock in our arrangement. Next we are going to come in with some white spray roses. So I have some really beautiful white spray roses. So a spray rose is a very petite rose, and it grows in multiples on a stem. And so these whites it's a perfect flower for flowers to wear. So quite often we will use them and we'll take the individual blooms off. We will wire those and use them for corsages and boutonnieres. But they really are such a lovely little flower, and they work so pretty into arrangements. That one had a broken stem, so you just pull that off. Whoops. Every time I turn my arrangement, my bales keep running over the greenery, so let's just put that in the floor so we don't run over it every time we turn our arrangement. Ooh, those white spray roses are so pretty. Okay, so there's our pretty white spray roses, and they're just throughout the arrangement. Next we have got some really pretty green roses. So these are standard roses, and standard roses come with a single bloom on a stem. Often they're long stemmed. Usually the length of the stem that we prefer is 60 centimeters because 60 centimeters makes a big showy dozen rose arrangement. And so that's the reason we most often order ours in a 60 centimeter length. But for short arrangements, say we're going to work with bridal bouquets and different smaller arrangements, we will order them as short as 40 centimeters. And the reason we do that is because if we know all the roses are going to go into shorter, more compact arrangements, we don't have to pay quite as much for 40 centimeters as you do for 60 centimeters. And so these are our standard 60s. That's what we normally order. So I'm going to cut that stem at an angle, and I am going to tuck these right into this arrangement. Now I go ahead and remove any of the bumps or bruises on our rose petals. Go ahead and pull those off. Cut that stem at an angle. Now because I'm adding these really short down into this container, I am not wiring these roses, but you can absolutely wire these roses. But you can see I'm cutting them really short and pressing them pretty deep down into my arrangement. All right. So there's our pretty flowers all the way around. Okay, the last flower we've chosen to use are some beautiful mini white calla lilies. So calla lilies come in a standard calla and a mini calla. These are the minis. And mini callas come in bright colors, kind of a rainbow of colors, purples and pinks and yellows and whites. Pretty colors. Standards only come in white. So a standard is often about the bloom itself is about the size of my hand. And a mini is about half that size. So it's pretty small. I prefer a mini calla over a standard calla, and it's strictly because minis are just easier to work with. Now I'm going to show you a little trick. I am going to use a piece of wire and I am going to run it into the stem. And let me tell you why. The stems are pretty fragile on calla lilies. And so when I go to press it into this foam, it wants to bend or break. I'm going to take, this is a thick wire, so it's a 21 gauge? 26 gauge, anyway. It's a heavy wire. I think it's an 18 gauge. Anyway, it's heavy. And so I'm going to press this right into this stem. And what it's going to do is it's just going to support that stem when I go to push it into my foam. So I'm going to take that and I am just going to press that calla lily right down into that floral foam. And you can kind of see him standing up pretty there. I'm going to cut this stem. I'm going to use my wire and I'm just running it into that stem. And again, that is just giving me some stability for this calla lily. So I just ran that wire right through that stem. I'm going to press him right into the foam on this opposite side. And he's just tucked right there. The wonderful part about adding that stem too is that little piece of wire is then it's a little easier to manipulate the flower. You can kind of twist and turn him and kind of make him position where you'd like him to be. Calla lilies kind of have a mind of their own, like the bells of Ireland, and they do a little bit of a turn on their own. All right. Last, we are going to add just a little more foliage to our beautiful arrangement. So I went out and I harvested some foliage, and I'm going to be really honest, I do not know the variety of this greenery, but I do know that it holds up real well. I wanted to say that it's in the privet family, but when you cut standard privet, it does not hold up well in floral arrangements, and these hold up really well. I'm cutting it in small pieces, and I am just going to tuck a little bit of it here and there in our arrangement. Really what it's doing is just giving us one more texture, one more little texture of greenery. And if you've watched me at all, you know I am a fan of foliage. I really like pretty greens. Gosh, this is a pretty arrangement. I think she'll be very pleased. So again, this arrangement contains bells of Ireland, which are the green lime flower. Here, this is a bell. White stock, which is another line flower. White hydrangeas, which are the large mass flowers in the center. White mini callas, which are the little pointed flowers. White spray roses, which are the little multi roses on a stem, or the spray roses. And then green, which is, I believe they're green tea is the variety. The standard roses. And then our mixture of foliage includes leatherleaf, Nandina foliage, this privet, and some lemon leaf salal. And there is our arrangement for a memorial service. Guys, thank you so much for being here with me this afternoon. If you have any questions about how we do things here at our flower shop, you know you can always ask. If you enjoy watching videos, please be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and check us out over on Facebook. Follow us on Facebook, Flowers by the Bunch over there. We do videos similar to this each and every day. We'd love to have you join us. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon, and guys, we'll see you real soon. Thank you.